I'm Lieutenant Trey Gibbs. It is my pleasure to serve as your Master of Ceremonies today. The ceremony will begin shortly. Please take this opportunity to verify that all cell phones and electronic devices are turned off or placed in silent mode for the ceremony. Military guests will remain covered for the national anthem. Covers may be removed after members of the official party are seated. Throughout today's ceremony, I will provide cues for when to stand and be seated, when to cover and uncover. Lastly, at the beginning of today's ceremony, we will honor our nation with the parading of its colors and the playing of the national anthem. As this happens, please reflect on our location here in Baltimore. It was during the Battle of Baltimore and shelling of Fort McHenry, 2.3 miles from this site, that Francis Scott Key penned the words we know as our Star-Spangled Banner. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the USS Constellation Museum ship, the retirement ceremony honoring Commander Richard Froderman. In a few moments, the official party will arrive, kicking off this event. The ceremony you are participating in may be a new experience for some of you. The United States Naval Customs have origins much older than the United States itself. Most have their roots in the British Royal Navy, where many early American naval officers and sailors began their service, sometimes not of their own free will. Our Navy traditions evolved from the daily routine of seafarers during the bygone era of wooden hulls, canvas sails, and bronze cannons. The impending arrival and departure of important persons was announced by striking the ship's bell in order to ready the assembled and the appropriate crew members. Actual arrival or departure was signaled by the ship's boatswain blowing a pipe. Making ready for arrivals and departures was the gathering of sideboys who formed two rows which the dignitary passed between. Listen and watch as the ship's bell is rung. The boatswain's mate blows the pipe. Sideboys render salutes. Official documents are read, and senior officers address the assembly. You're participating not only in official business, but a time-honored naval tradition. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the arrival of the official party and remain standing for our national anthem and invocation. Military members, cover. Boatswain, post the sideboys.
Aye, aye.
Boatswain, post the sideboys. Boatswain, strike 4 bells. Commander, United States Navy, arriving. Boatswain, strike 6 bells. Rear Admiral, United States Navy, arriving. Boatswain, strike 6 bells. Rear Admiral, United States Navy, retired, arriving. Parade the colors.
Ready, halt, left, face, freeze in, carry, colors. Ready, two, left, face, forward, march.
Monsignor Cummings will now give the invocation.
Let us pray. Good and gracious God, we do well always and everywhere to give you thanks for all your blessings. Today we thank you for the lovely weather with the sunshine and the blue skies and the warmer temperatures. But in particular today we're grateful for the 36 years of loyal and dedicated service of Commander Dick Froderman to the United States Navy, and the sacrifices he rendered with the many deployments and separations from his wife Lori, children Guy, Allison, and Danielle. Their loving support and sacrifices enabled him to serve so well with distinction. Finally, we thank you for this all-inspiring retirement ceremony, which will long be remembered, and a fitting conclusion to an outstanding career in the Navy. This I pray through your holy name. Amen.
Boatswain, boast aside, boys.
Aye, aye.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please be seated. Military members, remove covers. Honored guests, shipmates, family, and friends, it is my pleasure to again welcome you to the USS Constellation Museum ship. We are happy you are here today to celebrate the service of Commander Dick Froderman and his family. We gathered this morning to witness the conclusion of a full and successful Navy career. We come together to say thank you to an outstanding shipmate and leader, and to honor his 36 years of service, sacrifice, and sworn defense of our nation's Constitution and the ideals enshrined therein. It is my pleasure to introduce the presiding officer and sponsor of today's ceremony, Rear Admiral Stephen Donald, United States Navy, Deputy Commander, U.S. Fleet Cyber Command, Deputy Commander, U.S. Space Command, Deputy Commander, 10th Fleet.
Certainly my pleasure to be here today. I'm going to try to be brief because I am being followed by our guest of honor, Rear Admiral Steve Perode. and I believe that you will find him far more brilliant than you will me. You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll think it's better than Cats. For those that
Definitely the latest version.
But certainly, good afternoon. It's my honor to be here. I apologize. I wore my transition lenses, so I'm not trying to be the cool guy out here. This just happens to be what happens when you actually see sunlight. So it's my pleasure to be here, an honor to celebrate the career and retirement of Commander Richard Dick Froderman. I'd like to kick it off with a quote that I think sums up today from Admiral George Anderson. It comes from a ceremony held, he was a former Chief of Naval Operations, and it comes from a ceremony that was held in Annapolis in 1961 when he was relieving Admiral Arleigh Burke as the Chief of Naval Operations. And he said, the Navy has a tradition and a future, and we look with pride and confidence in both directions. As you'll see, the ceremony today is tradition. From the age of sail and maritime colonialism, modernized for some of the conveniences, but still very grounded in tradition. This venue, the USS Constellation, is a historic reminder of that tradition. The sailors on the Constellation will conduct these very same ceremonies for bringing dignitaries on board and retiring shipmates ashore. Although in their time they would do it with a lot more work and a lot less tech than we have today. These traditions that every sailor is inundated with, from the day they join to the day that they depart, gives us a common understanding, a common framework, and a common perspective to come together and work as a team to solve the nation's challenges. They are fundamental to who we are as a Navy and a maritime nation. We are a long way from the age of sail. We are in fact 61 years from that very quote, but the quote itself is timeless. To provide some context, in 1961, the nuclear Navy, with Admiral Rickover, was just starting to scale and mature, having launched the USS Nautilus, the first nuclear submarine, in 1958. And Admiral Anderson would soon be facing the Cuban Missile Crisis, both events requiring the Navy to be forward-looking, forward-thinking, innovative, and successful. In 2022, we sit at a similar precipice within our Navy. As space, information, and cyber forces are maturing, and challenges from resurgent competitors across the globe, as illustrated today in the defense of Ukraine. But Dick's career, while infused with all of this tradition, has been anything but traditional. Dick, I do not need to tell you that you had an amazing career. I'm pretty sure you know it, but I'd like to say a few things about it. To fold into our narrative and tradition and help inspire those who need inspiration. You truly decided to take one of the hardest paths into the Navy that I know. By starting out as a non-prior service reservist. Somebody who has had zero affiliation with the United States military. You decided to raise your right hand and swore the oath to come in as an enlisted cryptologic technician and doing reserve work, right? Which meant that you had a second or third or sometimes fourth job while you were trying to do everything else that you were doing. In the cryptologic field alone, non-prior service reservists account for about 30% of our enlisted force and less than 10% of our officer corps. Not only were you enlisted reservist, but then you became an officer in the reserves. And again, we only select maybe 10% of the forces that want to be a commissioned officer in the reserves that apply. Yet you made it. And you were not just a reservist for a couple of years. You were a reservist for a decade and a half. And you did so without necessarily all the understanding that during those 15 years, you have to balance going to school, qualifying and working as a national park law enforcement officer, qualifying and working as a cryptologic technician, qualifying and working as a naval cryptologic officer, and I'm sure, since I see an abundance of family here, you were trying to live a life and start a family. And you were balancing all this, perhaps not necessarily to your full knowledge every time, but you were balancing all of this incredibly well in a time and an era in the reserves where it was, I would call it almost bureaucratically draining to get work done. We didn't have all the technology that we have today. We didn't have all of the capabilities that we have today that help our workforce mature. But you did this so well that in 2000 you were selected to transfer to the active duty, right? And here again, we take one, maybe two officers every year to transfer from the reserves to the active duty. And back in this time, this is pre 9/11, that was probably one or two officers every other year. And I will tell you, right, his record spoke to his ability to do this. Now, when I talk to, I will tell you what I tell most reservists who try to do this. I will tell you, if you make it, and it's going to be tough, if you make it, you will do 20 years, but you will probably retire as lieutenant commander. Only 10% of those that we pick up, even though they're the 10% of the 10% of the 10%, are likely to make it past lieutenant commander to retire. And yet, Dick, you did it. You're better than that 10%. I like to think that if I had been your mentor at that point in time and whispered in your ear like this, you probably would have told me, well, sir, I'm going to prove you wrong. And you very much have. In doing so, you trailblazed a number of endeavors in innovating and operationalizing information operations at 10th Fleet, innovating, maturing information warfare commander afloat concepts, which is key to our warfighting capabilities today as a Deputy Information Warfare Commander for Carrier Strike Group 2, innovating and modernizing the Navy Cybersecurity Program and the development and execution of Navy Cyber Safe, modernizing the Navy warfighting concepts through the development of the Maritime Operations Center of the Future, and countless other things that are at higher classification levels that I cannot talk about here, and you guys will probably never, ever know.
I can understand it.
Just know that he's absolutely amazing at doing it. Dick, you are, and rightly known as, the planner's planner, bringing innovative, good ideas and critical thinking together with rigor. And you've done so with a smile, a bit of humor, but always with a level-headed professionalism that we have all counted on throughout these years, even when the pressure was on and the pressure was tight. That's a testament to you, the parents who raised you, and your wife and kids who, if they're anything like mine, keep you grounded in their unique way to support you. In a few moments, I look forward to personally thanking your family for their support and sacrifice for these years so that you could serve the Navy and the nation. Naval reservist, naval officer, commander, cryptologist, planner, and leader, and perhaps most importantly, a son, husband, and a father, all are words that are used to describe you, but none of them sufficiently embody you. Please know that you have touched many people, that you'll carry on all that you have started. Thank you, Dick, for sharing this tradition with us today. And I thank you for your tireless effort throughout your career, setting up the command, the Navy, and the nation for our success in the future. The Navy has a tradition and a future, and we look with pride in both directions because of the work that Dick Froderman has done. Thank you.
Thank you, Admiral Donald. I'll now introduce the guest speaker of today's ceremony, Rear Admiral Steve Perot.
Awesome, thanks. You know, no, please don't. You never clap before my speeches because they can go in so many bad ways. But before we begin today, I wanted to thank Admiral Donald for his leadership and his presence, Monsignor, for your great words. LT, driving, well done so far. We'll see how it goes for the getting out of here. And Commander Froderman and his family, Lori, Danny, Allie, Guy, thank you for letting me be a part of this celebration of Dick's service. Marianne, thanks for letting us borrow your son for a few decades. Sorry we didn't give him back as much as we could, but he asked to stay with us, and now we have to throw him out because he just didn't get it. What he did get, what Dick did get, was the importance of our Navy to our nation. Can you hear me in the back? Okay. Because I was thinking about moving around a little bit because it's windy.
If you can try to get your mic works for the people out in the hinterland.
Is there a mic?
Yes, there is one underneath.
On the thing?
It is being underneath.
Underneath. Oh, like a handy mic? Like a Patangle thing?
Stand by.
Can you hear me now? No, it's not on. It says off. Okay, I see. It's off. It's windy. Can you hear me now? It's not. No, that's horrible, isn't it? Honestly, horrible.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Natural voice. But before I forget, the most important part about Dick's career you heard from Admiral Donald. He came out of American citizenship in the great state of Indiana, your average Hoosier, to live in a far above average life. But we want to recognize the other Hoosiers that have come here today. So I didn't get a chance to meet John and Tanya and Robert. I think they're here. Welcome. Are you from the Brazil area too? Terre Haute area?
Greencastle.
Greencastle. So we have good friends in Greenwood, and my wife and daughter and I and our son who couldn't make it because he's at work, we spend a lot of time going up and down Indiana. They call it the Crossroads of America for a very good reason. But we stay there all the time. Well, before COVID. Now we don't get there as much as we'd like. Adrienne, thank you for joining us. Are you in Brazil as well?
Yes.
Fantastic. I know you're in Brazil because Dick was going back and forth.
Yes.
But as I understand, Jeannie and Brent, you're in Illinois.
Yeah, Illinois.
Which part?
The western part, Galesburg.
Galesburg. Okay, cool.
West of Peoria.
No, well, I did 2 years in well, they say Omaha, but it's not really Omaha, at Offutt Air Force Base. And so I spent a lot of time terrified driving across Illinois in snow that I had never seen before, generally tucked in behind a semi-truck just to stay safe. But it's funny that we talk about Illinois, Indiana, and Iowa. You probably don't know this, but we call them the three eyes of the Navy. Those three states generate about 17% of the enlistments in the United States Navy. Now, I would say that that's a motivation of patriotism or a fear of corn. One of the two. You can pick. If you have bad allergies like I do, the first thing I learned in Nebraska was corn is tough. It's a beast, and it will own you, it'll drive you to the pavement, it'll take away all of your fun until winter. That's okay. So before we begin, I need to check with Dick. We didn't coordinate a lot. Do you want the really short ceremony speech, the lengthier one, or do you want me to try to find a Goldilocks one in the middle?
Goldilocks.
Okay, Goldilocks. Martine, phone, set a 10-minute timer. That's all I got.
Okay.
Thanks, that's my daughter. She's used to that. It's really weird. I wonder if I go over here and be rude. Is it less sunny to look over this way than it is? Or is it the same, right? Because I'm looking at my shadow. If my shadow is leading away from your eyes, then we should be better, right? So you're okay with me here? I'll stay here, less of the glaring into the sun. Marianne, good?
Perfect.
All right, great.
10 minutes starts now.
Thanks, very good. She knows me better than you do. So, Dick Froderman joined our Navy as a reservist. You heard from Admiral Donald how challenging that is. It's super challenging. Not only did he join our Navy as a reservist, he joined our Navy as a reservist seeking to get into the most restrictive community in our United States Navy, one that demanded something that would be very difficult to achieve today, which is that Dick not use cannabis often. And I don't know if you did or didn't. I'm sure you signed the right things on the form of enlistment. But he actually got his security clearance and he made his way into the United States Navy. And the Navy took him just like a sawmill takes a log off the flume and sends him to be cleaned up. Good news is Dick Froderman got cleaned up very fast. Dick and I have known each other, worked together for 22 years. We've had a chance to share a lot of experiences. We've yelled at each other, we've sworn at each other. He unfortunately did a tour as my executive assistant when I was at OpNav. That's the Chief of Naval Operations fiscal staff at the Pentagon. I call it the 5-ring circus or the concrete big top. Other people call it less charitable things, and since you're recording, I won't repeat those. But what Dick found out is that if you do back-to-back tours in the Pentagon, one of them trying to solve the Navy's cyber vulnerabilities at sea, and the second trying to solve Steve Perot's inability to stay on time, it's an exhausting 5-6 years. He was just burned out. So he got to 10th Fleet after going to school in Newport for a little bit of a break, and well, Russia had a different idea. Russia didn't give Dick an easy ease into retirement. Russia made Dick have to go back into the business again, help us understand the challenges and threats of this new and evolved multipolar world that we find ourselves in. And Dick, I would tell you, went back to the future. When Dick Froderman enlisted in our United States Naval Reserve, we were at the pinnacle of our competition with the Soviet Union over peace and security in Europe. The nuclear power of the Soviet Union was substantially more than enough to destroy the world 5 times over, and the only thing that stopped them from using it to impose their will upon Europe was the power and presence of the United States and our allies in NATO. I know because while Dick was working in the reserves, going back and forth to Europe, doing things we'll never speak of, my wife and I were in Italy at the same time as a young officer, just married, no kids then, and we didn't really take advantage of that, did we? No, the first time? Did we really? I thought we did better the second time. That's where Dick and Lori came over to visit with the kids. My point was, sorry I kind of took the squirrel route there. My point was, we were there because it was important to have 1.5 million Americans under arms in Europe to secure peace and to deter the Soviets. And what we have learned is when we are not forward and engaged, rampant adventurism sets in the minds of dictatorship. Read your news today. There's war in Europe again on a scale unseen since possibly the worst days of the Yugoslavian war 30 years ago, but more likely the early days of World War II in the early 1940s. Our friends in North Korea have just fired their largest, longest range ballistic missile. It can range every city in the United States of America. It's a monster. In fact, I read a news report today that said that it's the largest road mobile ballistic missile ever made by man. I had a lot of expertise in that field when I was working out at Offutt Air Force Base, and I would have to say they might be right. And on the flip side of that, we have China, ensuring that we will have a global competitor for the next 50 years. They have set their sights on a world bent to their will, complicit with the ideas of their evolved version of Marxism and the false lies of that economic system, which is really just a way to structure and impose control over people and deny them liberty so you can maintain their labor. This is the world we're in now. That was the world Dick Froderman entered the Navy in. And Dick was a reserve officer, so he couldn't be gone all the time during reserve duty. Maybe he could. He did some pretty cool reserve things. But Dick also committed himself to a different life, a developed life, the life you see in the Naval Reserve. Show of hands, who's familiar with the Naval Reserve and how it's different? Is that my alarm already?
No.
Oh, thank goodness. I was like cranking. The Naval Reserve is different from the National Guard. It's different from the Army Reserve. It's different from the Air Force Reserve. I don't know if the Guardians have a Space Reserve. The Naval Reserve is organized differently. It's directly associated with and oriented to the size of our Navy, which is provided for by Congress, whereas our Army, militia, and Guard are a balancing act between the states and our national government. Read the Constitution if you haven't. The reality is the Navy doesn't operate its reserve the way the Army and the Army Reserve, the Air Guard, the Air Force Reserve are operated. Our force structure depends upon the size and missions of our fleet. And so Dick needed other work. He went to college, he became a law enforcement officer. He worked hard in the National Park Service to make sure that there would be young people in the early 2000s that could enlist in the military by not doing cannabis. In public, in Great Falls Park.
Midshipman, though.
Yes, indeed. Shocked to tell you a midshipman might. Anyway, but Dick also worked at a place near and dear to my heart, up in Sandy Hook, up in New Jersey. which is where one of our largest ammunition depots is for the United States Navy. I was assigned to a ship that had to get ammunition out of there because it was an old school World War II battleship. We were in and out of Sandy Hook on a regular basis, and I didn't know Dick at the time, but I wish I had, because I had a place to crash off the ship. And if I remember right, you two got married and went up to Jersey for a bit before you came back to Linthicum to settle into your first home. That's where I ended the story of Dick. We were colleagues at the headquarters staff at Fort Meade for the Navy. And guess what? The Soviet Union had collapsed under its own weight, unable to maintain itself. Its hollow threats revealed for the first time. Unfortunately, like a sleeping serpent, they would be reborn. It just took a while. But for the meantime, Dick and I were focused on a different world. A world where we were coming out of a decade of peace. The Navy was in decline. Its force was being reduced. On September 12th, 2001, Wednesday, I was supposed to go to headquarters in Washington, and Dick was working on a paper with me to reduce the total end strength of the United States Navy by 7% in order to restructure the force. That meeting never happened because on September 11th, Dick and I were evacuating the facilities at Fort Meade because we didn't know where the last jet was going to go. And our nation entered in a 20-year struggle with conceptual extremism on a global yet personal scale. And there was the environment in which Dick Froderman rose to the fore as an expert in what we call information operations. The use of communications and computers to share our messages of peace and prosperity directly to populations at risk. And he bore that out in person, going to Afghanistan and serving on the front lines to make it happen. I didn't have that opportunity, but Dick Froderman did it, weaving it in between sea duty, because Dick was unstoppable in wanting to be a part of the operational force. He conned aircraft carriers underway. He built and sustained staff functions of multiple officers for global and regional operations. He also, super jealous, got to go to South Africa. There's some great pictures, if you haven't seen them, of his ship off of Table Mountain down at the southern tip of Africa. I didn't get to do that. Yes, my friends, I am a slimy wog. It happens when you serve in the Atlantic side of things, you don't get a blessing or two to go out west or go south. But Dick is not. He's been all over the world in defense of our nation. And when he got done doing that, he came back into the buzzsaw that is Washington, D.C., principally so that you guys could build out the farm, which is a spectacular operation if you have not seen it. Lori, I think I've got the story right. You bought the house while Dick was deployed.
Yep.
And you guys built it in,
Yep.
and then things took off.
Gave birth without him.
Yep, that's what Navy wives are forced to do by the exigency of our service.
It wasn't planned that way. He was supposed to be there.
Right. Nancy will tell you a dozen stories like that in our lives too. I'll be there, don't worry, in 3 weeks.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's a challenge. And for Dick Froderman, having come on active duty to defend our nation against extremism, it became immediately real and persistently present in everything he did. He stopped being able to be part of a daily, comfortable existence where once in a while he would put on the uniform and go and serve the nation. He became a uniform-wearing, card-carrying member of the active component, which meant he became a victim to the wills of the President and the Secretary of Defense. A willing victim, but victim nonetheless. We call them orders because you don't say no. And Dick Froderman never said no. Every time he was challenged, every time he was called, every time he, that's it, 10 minutes? I'm gonna wrap it up. Every time he faced the exigencies of a changing world, he never said no. He was there for us, representing the Naval Reserve and its strong ideals of citizens who don the uniform to protect the nation on demand, and those who become part of the active Navy, not questioning whether or not their families are strong enough or skilled enough, because they are strong and skilled enough to support the home behind the ship as it sails. Woman or man at sea, no one goes to sea who does not think of their families every minute they're away. And in the modern Navy, communication is way better than it was in our early Navy, where occasionally we would get letters home. Dick was not often out of touch. And when he was out of touch, it was because he could not be in touch. The mission demanded that he trust Lori and the kids to carry on until he could be a part of their lives again. That's what we celebrate today. His service, his commitment, his family's service, their commitment, unquestioning loyalty to the oath of defense of the Constitution and the American way of life. I would ask you to rise and join me in a round of applause for the Froderman family and their 30+ years of sacrifice. And I ran out of time. Thank you all very much. I just had this in case I forgot all the names of the people that came. I think I got them close to right? Okay.
Well done.
Career success in the Navy is impossible without the consistent and loving involvement of close family and friends. Mrs. Lori Froderman, Guy, Allison, and Danielle, will you please come join Admiral Donald? Yes, please rise. Admiral Donald will now present certificates of appreciation to Mrs. Lori Froderman, Richard Guy, Allison, and Danielle, recognizing their selfless support to their husband and dad during his 36 years of service. Certificate of appreciation from the United States Navy to Lori Froderman. By the authority vested in me, it is my pleasure to express the grateful appreciation of the United States Navy to you for your unselfish, patriotic, and devoted service during your husband's 36 years of military service. Your unfailing support and understanding helped immeasurably to make possible his lasting contribution to the nation. To those who say a single man cannot make a difference, I say wrong. Your husband did. He made our Navy stronger and kept our nation safe. With this service to the Navy now complete, he will be able to spend more time with you in the future. The United States Navy thanks you, and I thank you. Given this 25th day of March 2022, signed Ross Myers, Vice Admiral, Commander Fleet Cyber Command, U.S. 10th Fleet. Letter of appreciation from the United States Navy to Guy, Allison, and Danielle Froderman. By the authority vested in me, it is my pleasure to express the grateful appreciation of the United States Navy to you for enduring the frequent and long separation from your father as he served his country. These months, indeed years, that he spent away from you constitute clear and noble demonstration of his love for you and his family. You see, he left you in order to ensure that you inherited a safer world, a surer peace. To those who say a single man cannot make a difference, I say wrong. Your father did. He made our Navy stronger and kept our nation safe. With this service to the Navy now complete, he will be able to spend more time with you in the future. The United States Navy thanks you and your father for enduring these separations. Given the 25th day of March 2022, signed Ross, Vice Admiral, Commander, Fleet Cyber Command, U.S. 10th Fleet. Thank you, Admiral Donald, Lori, Guy, Allison, and Danielle. Yes, please remain standing. Commander Froderman, front and center. Ladies and gentlemen, the Navy would now like to recognize the exceptional performance, superb dedication, and distinguished service of Commander Froderman. Admiral Donald will now present the Meritorious Service Medal to Commander Froderman. Attention to award. For Commander, U.S. Fleet Cyber Command, Commander, U.S. 10th Fleet, to Commander Richard G. Froderman for service as set forth in the following. For outstanding meritorious service while serving as Plans and Policy Directorate Strategic Plans Branch Chief on the staff of U.S. Fleet Cyber Command, U.S. 10th Fleet, from August 2020 to January 2022. Commander Froderman led a diverse team of military, civilian, and contract planners focused on the detailed and comprehensive planning of complex cyber, space, and other information warfare capabilities and concepts, ensuring success for the nation and the U.S. Navy in the newest military domains. Furthermore, he led and supervised planning and synchronization across combatant command staffs and integrated cyber effects and other capabilities into multi-domain exercises and operational orders. Finally, He personally led multiple highly successful operational planning teams to develop the commander's estimates and orders, and often in contentious and complex environments, resulting in valuable and positive outcomes for the nation. The U.S. Navy and the command. His superior performance and duties highlights the culmination of 36 years of honorable and dedicated service. Commander Froderman's exceptional professionalism, personal initiative, and loyal devotion to duty reflect great credit upon him and were in keeping with the highest traditions of the United States Naval Service. For the President, signed Vice Admiral Myers, United States Navy. In addition to the Meritorious Service Medal, Commander Froderman has received letters of appreciation from the governors of the great states of Indiana and Maryland. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Commander Froderman will now present gifts to his family. Flag detail. Post.
Godmothers are important.
I forgot, I left that out. I'm sorry.
Mark time. Mark. Flag detail. Halt. About. Face.
I am the flag of the United States of America. My name is Old Glory. I fly atop of the world's tallest buildings. I stand watch on America's halls of justice. I fly majestically over the great institutions of learning. I stand guard with the greatest military power in the world. Look up and see me. I stand for peace, honor, truth, and justice. I stand for freedom. I am confident. I am arrogant. I am proud. When I am flown with my fellow banners, my head is a little higher. My colors are a little truer. I bow to no one. I am recognized all over the world. I am worshipped. I am saluted. I am respected. I am revered. I am loved. I am feared. For more than 200 years, I have fought every battle of every war: Gettysburg, Shiloh, Appomattox, San Juan Hill, the trenches of France, the Argonne Forest, Anzio, Rome, the beaches of Normandy, the jungles of Guam, Okinawa, Tarawa, Korea, Vietnam, and the Persian Gulf, the mountains of Afghanistan, the desert of Iraq, and a score of other places, long forgotten by all, except by those who were there with me. I was there. I led my sailors, soldiers, airmen, and Marines. I followed them. I watched over them. They loved me. I was on a small hill in Iwo Jima. I was dirty, battle-torn, and tired. But my sailors, soldiers, airmen, and Marines cheered me on. I was proud. I was at Ground Zero in New York City on September 11th as cowardly fanatics attacked America. I was raised from the ashes of once proud buildings by brave firefighters, heroes who risked their lives to save others, showing all that America, although bloody, will never be beaten. Those who will destroy me cannot win, for I am the symbol of freedom, of one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I have been soiled, burned, torn, and trampled on the streets of countries that I have helped to set free. It does not hurt, for I am invincible. I have been soiled, torn, and trampled on the streets of my own country, and when that is done by those who I have served in battle, it hurts. But I shall overcome, for I am strong. I have slipped the surely bonds of earth, and from the vantage point on the moon, I can stand watch over uncharted new frontiers of space. I've been silent witness to all the American finest hours. But my finest hour comes when I am torn into strips to be used as bandages for my wounded comrades on the field of battle, when I fly half-mast to honor my sailors, soldiers, airmen, and Marines. And when I lie in the trembling arms of a grieving mother at the gravesite of her fallen son or daughter, I am proud. My name is Old Glory. Long may I wave. Dear God, long may I wave. The flag that Commander Froderman is presenting to his mother, Mary Ann Froderman, was flown over Kabul, Afghanistan. USS George Washington, USS Theodore Roosevelt, the Pentagon, the National Security Agency, and Fleet Cyber Command, U.S. 10th Fleet, and gratitude for granting her blessings to his enlistment 37 years ago. Flag detail, post.
Flag detail, about, face, forward, march.
Ladies and gentlemen, I now introduce Dick Froderman.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for coming. Let's see if my lapel mic is working. I don't know if you guys can hear me or not. So I'll try to use my inner parode so that everybody can hear me. Sounds like it's coming across. So I am really taken aback by the number of folks that have come out to join us today. You know, I look across here and I see folks that kind of represent, you know, the entirety of my career, from the time in the Park Service to the time, you know, when I was a reservist, you know, coming back to ComNav Sec Group, going to see my first duty station on the George Washington, you know, to tours at OpNav, back to sea again, you know, back to, you know, working around here in the DC area. You know, that's one thing fortunate in that in this line of work, you know, when you're on the East Coast, you have opportunities to go to sea, you know, out of Norfolk, where you can, when you're not at sea on the weekends, you can come back home to your family. And I was blessed to be able to keep my family here in the one location, and so they could have a little bit more of a steady lifestyle here when I was not able to be with them and I was away. But the, you know, as a cryptologist, as many of you know, there's lots of things around here to do. But now that I've pulled up my speech while I was rambling along there, I want to first, you know, thank Admiral Donald and Admiral Parode for the kind words that, you know, they have, you know, shared. You brought back a lot of memories, things that I had not thought about, some things I didn't even realize, you know, from what Admiral Donald had said there. I just had opportunities and would just, you know, press on towards them without really appreciating the likelihood of achieving the objectives. But I just, as an example, that, you know, don't let that stuff deter you. Set your sights on something and go for it. It's probably best that I didn't know all that. So, you know, Admiral Parode mentioned the family that I've had come from afar. You know, I'm really thankful that my brother John, his wife, and his son, one of his sons, you know, could make it out here. You know, my sister, mom, my aunt, Uncle Brent, and, you know, my kids, you know, really had to twist their arms to skip school today, not go to class, you know, to come down here and spend the day with Dad. But, you know, I'm glad that they made it. So, you know, one of the things that, you know, I kind of alluded to earlier, you've got folks here who have been chewing kind of the dirt of the mountains that we've been trying to climb, you know, through the career. And as Admiral Parode pointed out, you know, there's much of the stuff that we got to work on, will never be known or understood by our fellow Americans, and that's for the best. Not that we're trying, anything is ever being hid from our fellow Americans, but the areas in which we work and the things we try to accomplish, for the nation's good and the strategic import of much of the stuff that we're doing, that stuff needs to be kept close hold. Just like any football team doesn't want the other team to see their playbook and anticipate and know what you're doing or why you're doing something. So it's nice to have those friends that you can look at and you guys see each other and the stuff that you've accomplished and what all's that your time has been worthwhile. It's the downside to that is often our families don't understand or can't comprehend that stuff that goes on when you're not there, why you're dragged away from them, or when you come home and you're kind of stressed or wound out about something, you can't really get into kind of the stuff that you were dealing with. So thankfully much of that is now behind me.
Yeah, just wait.
So one of the things that Admiral Perot talked about, that I was afraid you were starting to eat my sandwich, to use that British term, right?
Yeah, understood.
But
I tried to stay in weird places so I wouldn't take away either yours or the Admiral's remarks.
But one of the things that I have often thought, and I'm sure many people here will agree with me, is that, we like to think of our Navy as strong, like steel. It can be honed to a very sharp, fine edge. And, steel is an alloy. It has iron in it, but it has many other elements in it. And one of those most... Oh, golly. Yeah, I'm going to try to keep myself composed. One of the most elements in steel that has to be in the right proportion is carbon. And I kind of like to think that it is the family and the support from the family that is that carbon that mixes with the iron that makes steel what it is. So without that, your steel is brittle and doesn't have the properties that it needs. So the Navy doesn't succeed without that strong family. So I had a whole lot more that I was going to wax eloquently about that, but I'm afraid to go there because I'll soil my new freshly cleaned suit. So of course, who cares? It's not like I have to wear it again.
Oh, no. You've already spoken too soon. You should never predict. It's weird.
That's right. All right. So when I think back to the time that I've had in service, I wanted this speech to be more about we, not about me, because it's the family that is, that alloy, that critical element that makes everything possible. And, when Steve and Lori were talking about, the farm, which I like to refer to as the Froderman compound, it is what it is because, Lori being the foundation for it. We signed the contract to build that house when I was assigned to the George Washington. It was supposed to be completed before we left on deployment that year, but it wasn't. Thank you, Anne Arundel County, in the permitting process. So instead of moving my family into a house before we left, I'm like, see ya, and we go over the horizon, and while I'm gone, my wife is, Lori's packing up the old house, selling the old house by owner, harping, watching over the builder as they're building the new house to make sure everything's just the way she wants it, getting ready, going through closing, and selling the old house by owner and moving into the new house, and in the midst of all that, also having a baby. You know, Danielle was, you know, joined us right in the midst of all that. So, you know, she truly demonstrated her superwoman abilities there, and how, you know, whether she wants to admit it or not, she has those qualities of the Navy wife that can hold down the home fort, make magic happen, while, you know, the sailor is off, you know, doing the nation's bidding. So, oh yes, and she reminds me, she was also, you know, working at the hospital, you know, doing things. So, you know, and that's really, you know, not just working, but that was an example of what she did while I was on the George Washington, and all the stuff that, you know, she was called upon to step up to the plate and take care of. But then there are other times when I'm in Afghanistan, when I'm playing in South Africa, you know, with the Carrier Strike Group 2, doing port visits down there, or, you know, off entertaining President Karzai, who's coming out to visit the ship, and, you know, dealing with that. She's at home, minding after the kids, helping make sure the kids are focused, getting the time and attention that they need. And, you know, one of the impacts that I'm sure is felt by many a parent that is taken away by the work is the times where it's just not you being taken away and you missing something, but you're also, there's times where the children, you know, have something that they want you to be part of, but you can't. And, you know, and then that happens again, and they eventually get used to knowing that you're not going to be there because you've got to be somewhere else. You know, so the challenge for us is to kind of make up for that lost time and recover those relationships so that they embrace you and have you there in their life from this point forward, even though there were those times where calluses might have developed because you weren't there, you know, to be there in that situation. But, you know, that's it's an aspect of service that we and the families all have to deal with, and it's something that the nation should be more understanding of, or more recognized. You know, when we're walking down the street and I'm with my family and somebody sees a Navy patch or something and thanks me for my service, you know, what goes through my mind is they really need to be thanking these people beside me more so than they thank me, because I get, you know, we all get thanked a lot, but the families are underappreciated and under-recognized and under-thanked by the nation for that. So, this is probably important. Back there someplace, there's a backpack that, you know, I've got some more stuff for you guys that I want to give you. In addition to the flag that I had flown all those places that Lieutenant Gibbs mentioned, you know, that I gave my mom, I've also got some flags like that, you know, for each of my kids. And Lori and I have one too. But I don't want to. I kind of beat the drum, shed the tears, and hopefully conveyed to you the importance of my family to my success, and when we are finished here and we have the receiving line, please, thank them along with me for what they've done to enable, my career. Thanks so much.
Attention to orders. Yes, please rise for the reading of the orders and remain standing until the conclusion of the ceremony.
Play his last.
Not quite yet?
Officer Kiwi will now recite the watch.
Several, please sit back down.
Yes, sir. Yes. Gentlemen, please sit down. Officer Kiwi?
Sir, stand by and pipe the side. This order has been given on all naval ships from the 1500s through today. The Spanish, French, English, and Dutch. Yes, all navies of the world use a boatswain, side boys, and call when sending ashore and bringing aboard ship's company officers, dignitaries, and VIPs. The boatswain would stand tall as side boys, and they would hoist upon ropes, which would raise or lower a boarding platform, so that the officers would not have to climb upon the rat lines, which were hanging over the side used by the enlisted. This courtesy was sometimes extended to port officials and visiting officers. It was not uncommon, however, for the commanding officer of a ship to order up the jolly boat, 8 strongbacks and a boatswain, to take an old friend and shipmate to shore, home, never to set sail on naval ships again. All hands on deck would be called. Great speeches would be made of battles fought upon the open ocean, victory at sea, storms weathered, travels to strange and distant lands with ports of call. Why, with ports of call that others could only dream about. Then a rifle or a musket, a brace of pistols, a cutlass, or perhaps a chest made of fine wood bound in brass would be given, so that the departing sailor would remember the crew and the ship with which he had served. Then the boatswain would stand tall the side boys. The departing sailor would request permission to go ashore for the very last time. As he stepped upon the loading platform, the side boys would lower away. The departing sailor would sit in the stern of the jolly boat, and the strongbacks would begin to row. From the ship's main battery, the gunner would fire a single round, a salute to their shipmate going ashore. In the late 1700s, the United States set sail with new ideals, new traditions that would stand the test of time. The United States Navy, the world's finest Navy, has always led the way in performing ceremonies and customs for our shipmates. In the early 1800s, enlisted sailors began holding retirement ceremonies for other enlisted sailors, and the commanding officer would allow the jolly boat to take that shipmate ashore. After the Civil War, the commanding officers began holding the retirement ceremonies for the enlisted, showing that he and the Navy valued their service and their sacrifice. Today we have given most of the pomp and the circumstance of these ceremonies back to history. Time will not allow us to do all things of the past. Nevertheless, we will still stop all engines, lay about smartly, and drop anchor so that we can pay respect. Respect to the honor, the courage, the commitment that this sailor has shown. We want to recognize the dedication and devotion that he has given to his shipmates to the sea in defense of our nation. We want to recount the hours, the days, the months, yes, even the years that this shipmate has stood the watch. Aye, mates, for 36 years, this shipmate has stood the watch. While some of us lay in our bunks at night, this shipmate stood the watch. While some of us were in school learning our trade, this shipmate stood the watch. Yes, before many of you were even born, this shipmate stood the watch. At times when we could see the storm clouds of war brewing upon the horizon, this shipmate stood the watch. At times when he could see his family ashore wanting his love and his guidance, sometimes just his hand to hold during the hard times, this shipmate still stood the watch. He stood the watch so that you and I and our fellow countrymen could sleep soundly in safety each and every night, knowing a sailor stood the watch. Shipmate, I'm here to let you know your watch stands relieved. Relieved by those you've led, those you've guided, those you have mentored to take your place.
Dick Froderman, front and center.
Commander Froderman, you stand relieved. We have the watch.
You stand relieved.
Ladies and gentlemen, shipmates, in honor and recognition of his 36 years of service to our country, we will continue this time-honored naval tradition. Boatswain, stand by to pipe the side. We have a shipmate going ashore.
Aye, aye. Shipmate, going ashore.
Attention to orders. Yes, please rise to the reading the orders and remain standing until the conclusion of the ceremony.
I will now read my orders. From the Chief of Naval Operations, Washington, D.C. Retirement orders for Commander Richard Froderman, United States Navy. The request to be transferred to the retired list has been approved by the Secretary of the Navy effective 1 April 2022. You have been transferred to the retired list in the grade of Commander, pursuant to revisions of Title 10 U.S. Code 1370 and 8322. Signed, Michael M. Gilday, Admiral, United States Navy, Chief of Naval Operations.
Monsieur Cummings will now provide the benediction. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise. Military members cover.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, as we come to the end of this ceremony, I ask you to bless the Froderman family in the years ahead. May they be very good years. They deserve it. But let us not forget the Ukrainian people who are getting something they do not deserve. May peace soon return to their troubled land and their suffering come to an end. Finally, we ask your blessing upon the men and women serving in the United States Navy and the other armed forces of our country. We ask your blessing on all who are gathered here this afternoon. The Lord bless and keep them. The Lord let his face shine upon them and be gracious to them. The Lord look upon them kindly and give them peace. Amen.
Commander Froderman will now request permission to go ashore for the last time. Admiral Donald, Admiral Perot, please join Commander Froderman center stage.
Request permission to go ashore.
Permission granted.
Thank you, sir.
Motion made. Ring 'em loud, ring 'em proud. Naval officer, going ashore for the final time.
Ladies and gentlemen, Commander Froderman will now go ashore. Boatswain, strike 4 bells. Commander, United States Navy, retired, departing.
Made it right. Practice was done.
I'm fine the first round.
That was short.
Yep, family time.
Boatswain,
Well, come join me. Navy family. Allison.
Motion, ring 'em loud, ring 'em proud. United States Navy family, going ashore for the final time.
Aye, sir.
Boatswain, strike 4 bells. Navy family, departing. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Admiral Stephen Donald, the United States Navy, and the men and women of Fleet Cyber Command, U.S. 10th Fleet, I'd like to thank you for joining us today, for your attendance and your ceaseless devotion to the United States Navy and our sailors. Commander Froderman and his family invite all for refreshments on the foredeck. This concludes today's ceremony.